Hi, thank you for downloading this podcast. My name is Eleanor, and I'm based in Luton, and I wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you about the subject of hospitality. So just for these few minutes, we're just going to think about what biblical hospitality is and how we can practice biblical hospitality today. Hospitality is defined in the dictionary as the friendly reception and treatment of guests and strangers. And when we think about hospitality, we may be thinking of things like how we welcome people, how we can be friendly and generous, how we can accommodate people, and how we can share food with others. And these are all part of being hospitable. So let's take a look at what the Bible has to say about it. The word hospitality is actually only mentioned 5 times in the whole Bible. However, this doesn't mean that the Bible has little to say on the subject. The concept of hospitality is common throughout Scripture and is especially noticeable in the way that Jesus talks about how we should treat others. One particular passage that stands out is in Matthew chapter 7. In this chapter, Jesus talks repeatedly about how those of us who claim to follow him should be treating other people. It contains the famous phrase, "Do to others what you would have them do to you." And also the slightly more challenging phrase, "For in the same way as you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." Now that might sound a little bit like a scare tactic to make us behave better, but it's really a call to be generous. In fact, the whole chapter is a call to be generous, to act in a way that puts others before ourselves, and to live lives that show practically the love of God that we say we have received. This chapter contains a warning about how you can tell those who are not who they say they are, by the fruit that they bear, and that God himself judges whether our love for him is sincere by the way we treat others. In the book of James, we read that faith without deeds is dead, and this is at the heart of what it means to offer hospitality, to treat others, both those we know and those we don't, with love and generosity. And this is the example of Jesus, for whom it seemed that no one was not worthy of his time and his love. He never turned people away, was always willing to spend time with them and talk with them. I mentioned at the beginning that we often associate sharing food with hospitality. And this is actually a really great way to be hospitable. It's very accessible, and it's one way that Jesus often did it. We often see him eating with people in the Bible. In fact, one of the first things Jesus did after rising from the dead was to cook breakfast on the beach for his disciples. And you can read the whole story of that in John chapter 21. This was a really simple and practical act, just to sit and cook some fish on a barbecue on a beach for them. But this simple meal led to the opportunity for him to have a hugely significant conversation with Peter, in which Jesus gets him back into a good relationship with him after the disappointment and the distress of Peter denying Jesus before he was crucified. I think sometimes that we think that we have to be hugely creative and spend lots of time and money and resources on engaging with people and making opportunities for connection and conversation. And sometimes we do. But actually what we see from a biblical model of hospitality is that it's often the ordinary and everyday things that create the best opportunities. And it's why food is so important in hospitality, because everyone has to eat. Most people enjoy it, and you don't have to break the bank to provide it. Jesus had so many significant conversations over food, simply because people are more at ease in everyday situations than in big events. So perhaps the question that I want to leave with you is, how can you follow Jesus' example in making the everyday moments into opportunities to love people, opportunities to be generous to people, and opportunities to tell them the good news? And it really can be anything, from meeting a friend for coffee. If you're stretched financially, you don't have to go to a coffee shop. Your own front room is just fine. Or maybe hosting a party. Could be from buying a homeless person a sandwich to running a soup kitchen. From inviting someone who is on their own at church back for lunch to running a community cafe. And then there's all the stuff that doesn't revolve around food. There's so many ideas out there. Get creative. Hospitality is all about being generous and using what you have, however small it is, to bless others and to build relationship with them.